Video 6.2. Video 6 Part 2. MCQs from 336 to 700. Subject: Pharmacology. Topic: Mechanisms of drug action. Quest 336. What is the mechanism of action of bisphosphonates like alendronate? Answer: inhibit osteoclast-mediated bone resorption. Question 337. How does omeprazole work in reducing gastric acid secretion? Answer: inhibits H plus K plus ATPase proton pump in parietal cells. 338. What is the action of H2 receptor antagonists like ranitidine? Answer: block histamine H2 receptors on gastric parietal cells. 339. How do antacids like aluminum hydroxide work? Answer: neutralize stomach acid. 340. What is the mechanism of action of sucralfate in peptic ulcer treatment? Answer: forms a protective barrier over ulcer sites. 341. How do prokinetic agents like metoclopramide work? Answer: enhance gastrointestinal motility by dopamine receptor blockade. 342. What is the action of antiemetics like ondansetron? Answer: block serotonin 5-HT3 receptors. 343. How do bulk-forming laxatives like psyllium work? Answer: absorb water to increase stool bulk. 344. What is the mechanism of action of osmotic laxatives like lactulose? Answer: draw water into the bowel to soften stool. 345. How do stimulant laxatives like bisacodyl work? Answer: stimulate colonic nerve endings to enhance motility. 346. What is the action of loperamide in diarrhea management? Answer: slows intestinal motility by acting on opioid receptors. 347. How do corticosteroids like prednisolone work? Answer: inhibit inflammatory mediators by blocking phospholipase A2. 348. What is the mechanism of action of immunosuppressants like cyclosporin? Answer: inhibit calcineurin to suppress T-cell activation. 349. How do TNF-alpha inhibitors like infliximab work? Answer: neutralize tumor necrosis factor alpha to reduce inflammation. 350. What is the action of methotrexate in rheumatoid arthritis? Answer: inhibits dihydrofolate reductase to block DNA synthesis. 351. How do monoclonal antibodies like trastuzumab work in cancer? Answer: target HER2 receptors on cancer cells. 352. What is the mechanism of action of tyrosine kinase inhibitors like imatinib? Answer: inhibit BCR-ABL tyrosine kinase. 353. How do alkylating agents like cyclophosphamide work? Answer: cross-link DNA to prevent replication. 354. What is the action of antimetabolites like 5-fluorouracil? Answer: inhibit DNA and RNA synthesis. 355. How do vinca alkaloids like vincristine work? Answer: inhibit microtubule assembly. 356. What is the mechanism of action of taxanes like paclitaxel? Answer. Stabilize microtubules to prevent cell division. 357. How do proteasome inhibitors like bortezomib work in cancer therapy? Answer. Inhibit proteasome activity to induce apoptosis. 358. What is the action of checkpoint inhibitors like nivolumab? Answer. Block PD1-PDL1 interaction to enhance T-cell activity. 359. How do anticoagulants like heparin work? Answer. Activate antithrombin 3 to inhibit clotting factors. 360. What is the mechanism of action of low molecular weight heparins like enoxaparin? Answer. Inhibit factor XA. 361. How do thrombolytics like streptokinase work? Answer. Convert plasminogen to plasmin to dissolve clots. 362. What is the action of direct oral anticoagulants DOACs like rivaroxaban? Answer. Directly inhibit factor XA. 363. How do antiplatelet drugs like aspirin work? Answer. Inhibit cyclooxygenase 1 COX1 to block thromboxane A2 production. 364. What is the mechanism of action of glycoprotein IIB EA inhibitors like abciximab? Answer. Inhibit platelet aggregation by blocking GPIIB EA receptors. 365. How do vasodilators like nitroglycerin work? Answer. Release nitric oxide to relax vascular smooth muscle. 366. What is the action of hydralazine in hypertension? Answer. Directly relaxes arteriolar smooth muscle. 367. How do alpha-adrenergic blockers like prazosin work? Answer. Block alpha-1 adrenergic receptors to reduce vascular resistance. 368. What is the mechanism of action of centrally acting drugs like clonidine? Answer. Activate alpha-2 adrenergic receptors in the brainstem. 369. How do potassium channel openers like minoxidil work? Answer. Open potassium channels in smooth muscle to cause hyperpolarization. 370. What is the action of endothelin receptor antagonists like bosentan? Answer. Block endothelin -1 receptors to reduce pulmonary arterial hypertension. 371. How do sodium glucose co-transporter 2 (SGLT2) inhibitors like empagliflozin work? Answer. Inhibit glucose reabsorption in renal proximal tubules. 372. What is the mechanism of action of glucagon-like peptide -1 GLP-1 agonists like liraglutide? Answer. Enhance insulin secretion and suppress glucagon release. 373. How do DPP-4 inhibitors like sitagliptin work? Answer. Inhibit dipeptidyl L-peptidase 4 to increase incretin levels. 374. What is the action of thiazolidinediones like pioglitazone? Answer. Activate PPAR gamma to improve insulin sensitivity. 375. How do sulfonylureas like glipizide work? Answer. Stimulate insulin release from pancreatic beta cells. 376. What is the mechanism of action of biguanides like metformin? Answer. Decrease hepatic glucose production and increase insulin sensitivity. 377. How do alpha-glucosidase inhibitors like acarbose work? Answer. Inhibit intestinal alpha-glucosidase enzymes to delay carbohydrate absorption. 378. What is the action of meglitinides like repaglinide? Answer. Stimulate rapid insulin release from pancreatic beta cells. 379. How does insulin work to lower blood glucose levels? Answer. Promotes glucose uptake by cells and inhibits gluconeogenesis. 380. What is the mechanism of action of amylin analogs like pramlintide? Answer. Slow gastric emptying and suppress postprandial glucagon secretion. 381. How do statins like atorvastatin work? Answer. Inhibit HMG-CoA reductase to reduce cholesterol synthesis. 382. What is the action of fibrates like gemfibrozil? Answer. Activate PPAR alpha to increase lipoprotein lipase activity. 383. How do bile acid sequestrants like cholestyramine work? Answer. Bind bile acids in the intestine to reduce cholesterol reabsorption. 384. What is the mechanism of action of ezetimibe? Answer. Inhibits cholesterol absorption in the small intestine. 385. How do PCSK9 inhibitors like evolocumab work? Answer. Increase LDL receptor recycling to reduce LDL cholesterol levels. 386. What is the action of niacin, vitamin B3, in lipid control? Answer. Inhibits lipolysis in adipose tissue to reduce VLDL synthesis. 387. How do beta blockers like propranolol work in hypertension? Answer. Block beta adrenergic receptors to reduce heart rate and cardiac output. 388. What is the mechanism of action of calcium channel blockers like amlodipine? Answer. Block calcium influx in vascular smooth muscle to cause vasodilation. 389. How do ACE inhibitors like enalapril work? Answer. Inhibit angiotensin converting enzyme to reduce angiotensin II levels. 390. What is the action of angiotensin II receptor blockers, ARBs like losartan? Answer. Block angiotensin II receptors to lower blood pressure. 391. How do loop diuretics like furosemide work? Answer. Inhibit Na plus K plus 2Cl cotransporter in the loop of Henle. 392. What is the mechanism of action of thiazide diuretics like hydrochlorothiazide? Answer. Inhibit Na plus Cl cotransporter in the distal convoluted tubule. 393. How do potassium-sparing diuretics like spironolactone work? Answer. Block aldosterone receptors in the distal nephron. 394. What is the action of carbonic anhydrase inhibitors like acetazolamide? Answer. Inhibit carbonic anhydrase to decrease bicarbonate reabsorption. 395. How does mannitol work as an osmotic diuretic? Answer. Increases osmotic pressure in the renal tubules to promote water excretion. 396. What is the mechanism of action of digitalis glycosides like digoxin? Answer. Inhibit Na plus K plus ATPase to increase intracellular calcium. 397. How do antiarrhythmic drugs like amiodarone work? Answer. Prolong cardiac action potential duration by blocking potassium channels. 398. What is the action of class 1 antiarrhythmic drugs like lidocaine? Answer. Block sodium channels in cardiac cells. 399. How do class 2 antiarrhythmic drugs like propranolol work? Answer. Block beta-adrenergic receptors to decrease heart rate. 400. What is the mechanism of action of class 3 antiarrhythmic drugs like sotalol? Answer. Prolong repolarization by blocking potassium channels. 401. How do class 4 antiarrhythmic drugs like verapamil work? Answer. Block L-type calcium channels in the heart. 402. What is the action of adenosine in arrhythmias? Answer. Activates adenosine receptors to slow AV node conduction. 403. How does atropine work in bradycardia? Answer. Blocks muscarinic receptors to increase heart rate. 404. What is the mechanism of action of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, like fluoxetine? Answer. Inhibit serotonin reuptake in the synaptic cleft. 405. How do tricyclic antidepressants like amitriptyline work? Answer. Inhibit reuptake of serotonin and norepinephrine. 406. What is the action of monoamine oxidase inhibitors, MAOIs, like phenelzine? Answer. Inhibit monoamine oxidase to increase levels of neurotransmitters. 407. How do benzodiazepines like diazepam work? Answer. Enhance GABA receptor activity. 408. What is the mechanism of action of antipsychotics like haloperidol? Answer. Block dopamine D2 receptors. 409. How do atypical antipsychotics like risperidone work? Answer. Block serotonin 5-HT2 and dopamine D2 receptors. 410. What is the action of lithium in bipolar disorder? Answer. Modulates neurotransmitter release and second messenger systems. 411. How do opioids like morphine work? Answer. Activate mu-opioid receptors to inhibit pain transmission. 412. What is the mechanism of action of NSAIDs like ibuprofen? Answer. Inhibit cyclooxygenase enzymes to reduce prostaglandin synthesis. 413. How does acetaminophen work as an analgesic? Answer. Inhibits prostaglandin synthesis in the CNS. 414. What is the action of local anesthetics like lidocaine? Answer. Block sodium channels to inhibit nerve conduction. 415. How do general anesthetics like propofol work? Answer. Potentiate GABA receptor activity and inhibit NMDA receptors. 416. What is the mechanism of action of ketamine? Answer: NMDA receptor antagonist. 417. How does succinylcholine work as a neuromuscular blocker? Answer: depolarizes the motor end plate and prevents repolarization. 418. What is the action of non-depolarizing neuromuscular blockers like rocuronium? Answer: competitively inhibit acetylcholine at the nicotinic receptor. 419. How do acetylcholinesterase inhibitors like neostigmine work? Answer: inhibit acetylcholinesterase to increase acetylcholine levels. 420. What is the mechanism of action of selective beta-2 agonists like albuterol? Answer: stimulate beta-2 receptors to cause bronchodilation. 421. How do leukotriene receptor antagonists like montelukast work? Answer: block leukotriene receptors to reduce airway inflammation. 422. What is the action of inhaled corticosteroids like budesonide? Answer: inhibit inflammatory cytokine production in the airways. 423. How do antihistamines like diphenhydramine work? Answer: block H1 histamine receptors. 424. What is the mechanism of action of proton pump inhibitors PPIs like omeprazole? Answer: irreversibly inhibit H plus K plus ATPase in gastric parietal cells. 425. How do H2 receptor antagonists like ranitidine work? Answer: block histamine H2 receptors to reduce gastric acid secretion. 426. What is the action of antacids like aluminum hydroxide? Answer: neutralize stomach acid. 427. How do prokinetic drugs like metoclopramide work? Answer: enhance gastrointestinal motility by antagonizing dopamine D2 receptors. 428. What is the mechanism of action of antiemetics like ondansetron? Answer: block serotonin 5-HT3 receptors. 429. How do laxatives like lactulose work? Answer: increase water retention in the colon to soften stools. 430. What is the action of opioid receptor antagonists like naloxone? Answer: block mu-opioid receptors. 431. How do bisphosphonates like alendronate work in osteoporosis? Answer: inhibit osteoclast-mediated bone resorption. 432. What is the mechanism of action of calcitonin? Answer: inhibits osteoclast activity to decrease bone resorption. 433. How does parathyroid hormone analog teriparatide work? Answer: stimulates osteoblast activity to promote bone formation. 434. What is the action of selective estrogen receptor modulators, SERMs like raloxifene? Answer: agonist at bone estrogen receptors to reduce bone loss. 435. How do antivirals like acyclovir work? Answer: inhibit viral DNA polymerase. 436. What is the mechanism of action of oseltamivir? Answer: inhibits neuraminidase to prevent viral release. 437. How do reverse transcriptase inhibitors like zidovudine work? Answer. Inhibit HIV reverse transcriptase. 438. What is the action of integrase inhibitors like dolutegravir? Answer. Inhibit HIV integrase to prevent viral DNA integration. 439. How do protease inhibitors like ritonavir work? Answer. Inhibit HIV protease to block viral protein maturation. 440. What is the mechanism of action of alkylating agents like cyclophosphamide? Answer. Cross-link DNA to inhibit replication. 441. How do antimetabolites like methotrexate work? Answer. Inhibit dihydrofolate reductase to block DNA synthesis. 442. What is the action of anthracyclines like doxorubicin? Answer. Intercalate DNA and inhibit topoisomerase 2. 443. How do monoclonal antibodies like trastuzumab work in cancer? Answer. Target specific proteins like HER2 on cancer cells. 444. What is the mechanism of action of immune checkpoint inhibitors like nivolumab? Answer. Block PD-1 or CTLA-4 to enhance T-cell activity. 445. How does interferon alpha work in cancer therapy? Answer. Boosts immune response against cancer cells. 446. What is the action of tyrosine kinase inhibitors like imatinib? Answer. Inhibit specific tyrosine kinases involved in cancer cell signaling. 447. How do antifungal drugs like fluconazole work? Answer. Inhibit ergosterol synthesis in fungal cell membranes. 448. What is the mechanism of action of amphotericin B? Answer. Binds to ergosterol and forms pores in fungal cell membranes. 449. How do antimalarials like chloroquine work? Answer. Inhibit heme polymerase in Plasmodium species. 450. What is the action of artemisinin-based therapies? Answer. Generate reactive oxygen species in Plasmodium cells. 451. What is the mechanism of action of quinine in malaria? Answer. Inhibits heme detoxification in Plasmodium species. 452. How do antiprotozoal drugs like metronidazole work? Answer. Generate reactive nitrogen species that damage DNA. 453. What is the action of praziquantel in parasitic infections? Answer. Increases calcium permeability in parasite membranes causing paralysis. 454. How do beta-lactam antibiotics like penicillin work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial cell wall synthesis by targeting transpeptidase enzymes. 455. What is the mechanism of action of glycopeptide antibiotics like vancomycin? Answer. Inhibit bacterial cell wall synthesis by binding D-ala-D-ala terminal. 456. How do macrolides like azithromycin work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial protein synthesis by binding the 50S ribosomal subunit. 457. What is the action of aminoglycosides like gentamicin? Answer. Inhibit bacterial protein synthesis by binding the 30S ribosomal subunit. 458. How do tetracyclines like doxycycline work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial protein synthesis by blocking the 30S ribosomal subunit. 459. What is the mechanism of action of fluoroquinolones like ciprofloxacin? Answer. Inhibit DNA gyrase and topoisomerase IV. 460. How does rifampin work in tuberculosis? Answer. Inhibits bacterial RNA polymerase. 461. What is the action of isoniazid in tuberculosis? Answer. Inhibits mycolic acid synthesis. 462. How do sulfonamides like sulfamethoxazole work? Answer. Inhibit dihydropterone synthase in folate synthesis. 463. What is the mechanism of action of trimethoprim? Answer. Inhibits dihydrofolate reductase in folate synthesis. 464. How do polymyxins like colistin work? Answer. Disrupt bacterial cell membranes by binding to lipopolysaccharides. 465. What is the action of chloramphenicol? Answer. Inhibits bacterial protein synthesis by binding the 50S ribosomal subunit. 466. How do oxazolidinones like linezolid work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial protein synthesis by binding the 50S ribosomal subunit. 467. What is the mechanism of action of daptomycin? Answer. Inserts into bacterial membranes causing depolarization and cell death. 468. How do antifolate drugs like pyrimethamine work? Answer. Inhibit dihydrofolate reductase in parasites. 469. What is the action of alkylating agents in cancer therapy? Answer. Form cross-links in DNA to block replication. 470. How do angiogenesis inhibitors like bevacizumab work? Answer. Block VEGF to inhibit tumor blood vessel growth. 471. What is the mechanism of action of immune modulators like thalidomide? Answer. Inhibits cytokine release and angiogenesis. 472. How do antiarrhythmic drugs like amiodarone work? Answer. Block potassium channels to prolong cardiac action potentials. 473. What is the action of ACE inhibitors like enalapril? Answer. Inhibit angiotensin converting enzyme to reduce blood pressure. 474. How do ARBs like losartan work? Answer. Block angiotensin II receptors. 475. What is the mechanism of action of calcium channel blockers like amlodipine? Answer. Block L-type calcium channels to reduce vascular smooth muscle contraction. 476. How do nitrates like nitroglycerin work? Answer. Release nitric oxide to cause vasodilation. 477. What is the action of beta blockers like propranolol? Answer. Block beta adrenergic receptors. 478. How do diuretics like furosemide work? Answer. Inhibit sodium and chloride reabsorption in the loop of Henle. 479. What is the mechanism of action of thiazide diuretics? Answer. Inhibit sodium and chloride reabsorption in the distal tubule. 480. How does spironolactone work? Answer. Inhibits aldosterone receptors in the kidney. 481. What is the action of digoxin? Answer. Inhibits Na plus K plus ATPase to increase cardiac contractility. 482. How do statins like atorvastatin work? Answer. Inhibit HMG-CoA reductase to lower cholesterol. 483. What is the mechanism of action of fibrates like gemfibrozil? Answer. Activate PPAR alpha to increase lipid metabolism. 484. How does niacin lower cholesterol? Answer. Inhibits lipolysis in adipose tissue. 485. What is the action of PCSK9 inhibitors like alirocumab? Answer. Increase LDL receptor recycling to lower LDL cholesterol. 486. How do anticoagulants like warfarin work? Answer. Inhibit vitamin K dependent clotting factors. 487. What is the mechanism of action of direct thrombin inhibitors like dabigatran? Answer. Inhibit thrombin directly. 488. How do factor XA inhibitors like rivaroxaban work? Answer. Inhibit factor XA in the coagulation cascade. 489. What is the action of thrombolytics like alteplase? Answer. Convert plasminogen to plasmin to dissolve clots. 490. How do antiplatelet drugs like clopidogrel work? Answer. Inhibit P2Y12ADP receptors on platelets. 491. What is the mechanism of action of aspirin? Answer. Inhibits cyclooxygenase COX to reduce thromboxane synthesis. 492. How does methotrexate work in rheumatoid arthritis? Answer. Inhibits dihydrofolate reductase to reduce immune activity. 493. What is the action of TNF-alpha inhibitors like infliximab? Answer. Block tumor necrosis factor alpha. 494. How do interleukin inhibitors like tocilizumab work? Answer. Block interleukin-6 receptors. 495. What is the mechanism of action of JAK inhibitors like tofacitinib? Answer. Inhibit Janus kinase signaling. 496. How do bisphosphonates like zoledronic acid work in cancer? Answer. Inhibit osteoclast activity to reduce bone metastasis. 497. What is the action of monoclonal antibodies like bevacizumab in cancer? Answer. Inhibit VEGF to prevent angiogenesis. 498. How do checkpoint inhibitors like pembrolizumab work? Answer. Block PD-1 to enhance immune attack on tumors. 499. What is the mechanism of action of immune adjuvants like BCG in cancer therapy? Answer. Stimulate an immune response against tumor antigens. 500. How do vaccines like HPV vaccines prevent cancer? Answer. Induce immunity against oncogenic viruses. 501. How do tyrosine kinase inhibitors like imatinib work in cancer? Answer. Inhibit BCR-ABL tyrosine kinase. 502. What is the mechanism of action of proteasome inhibitors like bortezomib? Answer. Inhibit proteasome activity, leading to apoptosis of cancer cells. 503. How do mTOR inhibitors like everolimus work in cancer therapy? Answer. Inhibit the mTOR pathway to reduce cell growth and proliferation. 504. What is the action of histone deacetylase inhibitors like vorinostat? Answer. Alter gene expression by inhibiting histone deacetylases. 505. How do immune checkpoint inhibitors like ipilimumab work? Answer. Block CTLA-4 to enhance T-cell activation against tumors. 506. What is the mechanism of action of SERMs like tamoxifen? Answer. Block estrogen receptors in breast tissue. 507. How do aromatase inhibitors like anastrozole work? Answer. Inhibit aromatase enzyme to reduce estrogen production. 508. What is the action of selective androgen receptor modulators, SARMs? Answer. Activate androgen receptors selectively in muscle and bone. 509. How do antiandrogens like flutamide work? Answer. Block androgen receptors in prostate cancer cells. 510. What is the mechanism of action of GnRH agonists like leuprolide? Answer. Suppress gonadotropin release by down-regulating GnRH receptors. 511. How do GnRH antagonists like digarelix work? Answer. Directly inhibit GnRH receptors to suppress gonadotropins. 512. What is the action of drugs like sildenafil in erectile dysfunction? Answer. Inhibit phosphodiesterase 5 to increase cGMP levels. 513. How does allopurinol work in gout? Answer. Inhibits xanthine oxidase to reduce uric acid production. 514. What is the mechanism of action of colchicine in gout? Answer. Inhibits microtubule polymerization to reduce inflammation. 515. How do uricosuric agents like probenecid work? Answer. Increase uric acid excretion by inhibiting reabsorption in the kidneys. 516. What is the action of lithium in bipolar disorder? Answer. Inhibits inositol monophosphatase to stabilize mood. 517. How do SSRIs like fluoxetine work in depression? Answer. Inhibits serotonin reuptake. 518. What is the mechanism of action of SNRIs like venlafaxine? Answer. Inhibits serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake. 519. How do tricyclic antidepressants like amitriptyline work? Answer. Inhibits serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake and block receptors. 520. What is the action of MAO inhibitors like phenelzine? Answer. Inhibit monoamine oxidase to prevent neurotransmitter breakdown. 521. How do antipsychotics like haloperidol work? Answer. Block dopamine D2 receptors. 522. What is the mechanism of action of atypical antipsychotics like olanzapine? Answer. Block dopamine and serotonin receptors. 523. How does levodopa work in Parkinson's disease? Answer. Converts to dopamine in the brain. 524. What is the action of dopamine agonists like pramipexole? Answer. Activate dopamine receptors. 525. How do anticholinergics like benztropine work in Parkinson's disease? Answer. Block muscarinic receptors to reduce tremors. 526. What is the mechanism of action of acetylcholinesterase inhibitors like donepezil? Answer. Inhibit acetylcholinesterase to increase acetylcholine levels. 527. How does memantine work in Alzheimer's disease? Answer. Blocks NMDA receptors to reduce excitotoxicity. 528. What is the action of local anesthetics like lidocaine? Answer. Blocks sodium channels to prevent nerve impulse conduction. 529. How do general anesthetics like propofol work? Answer. Enhance GABA activity to induce sedation. 530. What is the mechanism of action of opioids like morphine? Answer. Activate mu-opioid receptors. 531. How do opioid antagonists like naloxone work? Answer. Block opioid receptors. 532. What is the action of nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs NSAIDs like ibuprofen? Answer. Inhibit cyclooxygenase enzymes to reduce prostaglandin synthesis. 533. How do selective COX-2 inhibitors like celecoxib work? Answer. Inhibit COX-2 selectively to reduce inflammation. 534. What is the mechanism of action of acetaminophen? Answer. Inhibits prostaglandin synthesis in the CNS. 535. How do bisphosphonates like alendronate work in osteoporosis? Answer. Inhibit osteoclast-mediated bone resorption. 536. What is the action of calcitonin in osteoporosis? Answer. Inhibits osteoclast activity to reduce bone breakdown. 537. How do recombinant PTH analogs like teriparatide work? Answer. Stimulate osteoblast activity to increase bone formation. 538. What is the mechanism of action of anti-epileptic drugs like phenytoin? Answer. Block sodium channels to prevent seizures. 539. How does valproic acid work in epilepsy? Answer. Increases GABA levels and inhibits sodium channels. 540. What is the action of benzodiazepines like diazepam? Answer. Enhance GABA activity to produce sedation. 541. How do barbiturates like phenobarbital work? Answer. Enhance GABA activity and prolong chloride channel opening. 542. What is the mechanism of action of stimulants like methylphenidate? Answer. Increase dopamine and norepinephrine levels in the brain. 543. How does caffeine work as a stimulant? Answer. Blocks adenosine receptors. 544. What is the action of antihistamines like diphenhydramine? Answer. Block H1 histamine receptors. 545. How do H2 blockers like ranitidine work? Answer. Block H2 receptors in the stomach to reduce acid secretion. 546. What is the mechanism of action of proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole? Answer. Inhibit H plus K plus ATPase in gastric parietal cells. 547. How do antiemetics like ondansetron work? Answer. Block serotonin 5-HT3 receptors. 548. What is the action of dopamine antagonists like metoclopramide? Answer. Block dopamine receptors in the chemoreceptor trigger zone. 549. How do laxatives like lactulose work? Answer. Increase water content in the intestines to soften stool. 550. What is the mechanism of action of antidiarrheal drugs like loperamide? Answer. Activate opioid receptors in the gut to slow motility. 551. What is the action of bile acid sequestrants like cholestyramine? Answer. Bind bile acids in the intestine to lower cholesterol. 552. How do statins like atorvastatin work? Answer. Inhibit HMG-CoA reductase to reduce cholesterol synthesis. 553. What is the mechanism of action of fibrates like gemfibrozil? Answer. Activate PPAR alpha to increase lipid metabolism. 554. How does ezetimibe work in hyperlipidemia? Answer. Inhibits cholesterol absorption in the intestine. 555. What is the action of niacin, vitamin B3, in lipid-lowering therapy? Answer. Reduces hepatic production of VLDL and LDL. 556. How do PCSK9 inhibitors like evolocumab work? Answer. Inhibit PCSK9 to increase LDL receptor availability. 557. What is the mechanism of action of anticoagulants like heparin? Answer. Activates antithrombin to inhibit clotting factors. 558. How does warfarin work as an anticoagulant? Answer. Inhibits vitamin K epoxide reductase to reduce clotting factor synthesis. 559. What is the action of direct thrombin inhibitors like dabigatran? Answer. Directly inhibit thrombin activity. 560. How do factor XA inhibitors like rivaroxaban work? Answer. Inhibit factor XA in the coagulation cascade. 561. What is the mechanism of action of antiplatelet drugs like aspirin? Answer. Irreversibly inhibits COX-1 to reduce thromboxane A2 synthesis. 562. How does clopidogrel work as an antiplatelet agent? Answer. Inhibits P2Y12ADP receptors on platelets. 563. What is the action of glycoprotein IIB-EA inhibitors like abciximab? Answer. Prevent platelet aggregation by blocking IIB-EA receptors. 564. How do thrombolytics like alteplase work? Answer. Convert plasminogen to plasmin to dissolve clots. 565. What is the mechanism of action of diuretics like furosemide? Answer. Inhibit Na plus K plus 2Cl symporter in the loop of Henle. 566. How does hydrochlorothiazide work as a diuretic? Answer. Inhibits Na plus Cl symporter in the distal convoluted tubule. 567. What is the action of potassium-sparing diuretics like spironolactone? Answer. Block aldosterone receptors in the kidney. 568. How do osmotic diuretics like mannitol work? Answer. Increase osmolarity of renal filtrate to promote water excretion. 569. What is the mechanism of action of beta blockers like propranolol? Answer. Block beta adrenergic receptors. 570. How do ACE inhibitors like enalapril work? Answer. Inhibit angiotensin converting enzyme to lower blood pressure. 571. What is the action of angiotensin receptor blockers ARBs like losartan? Answer. Block angiotensin II receptors. 572. How do calcium channel blockers like amlodipine work? Answer. Inhibit calcium influx in vascular smooth muscle and cardiac cells. 573. What is the mechanism of action of vasodilators like hydralazine? Answer. Relax arterial smooth muscle. 574. How does digoxin work in heart failure? Answer. Inhibits Na plus K plus ATPase to increase intracellular calcium. 575. What is the action of antiarrhythmic drugs like amiodarone? Answer. Block potassium channels to prolong repolarization. 576. How do class 1 antiarrhythmic drugs like lidocaine work? Answer. Block sodium channels. 577. What is the mechanism of action of nitrates like nitroglycerin? Answer. Release nitric oxide to cause vasodilation. 578. How does insulin work in diabetes? Answer. Facilitates glucose uptake into cells. 579. What is the action of sulfonylureas like glimepiride? Answer. Stimulate insulin release from pancreatic beta cells. 580. How do DPP-4 inhibitors like sitagliptin work? Answer. Inhibit DPP-4 to increase incretin levels. 581. What is the mechanism of action of GLP-1 agonists like exenatide? Answer. Activate GLP-1 receptors to increase insulin secretion. 582. How do SGLT2 inhibitors like dapagliflozin work? Answer. Inhibits sodium glucose cotransporter 2 to increase glucose excretion. 583. What is the action of biguanides like metformin? Answer. Decrease hepatic glucose production. 584. How do thyroid hormone replacements like levothyroxine work? Answer. Mimic endogenous thyroid hormone. 585. What is the mechanism of action of antithyroid drugs like methimazole? Answer. Inhibit thyroid hormone synthesis. 586. How do bisphosphonates like zoledronic acid work? Answer. Inhibit osteoclast-mediated bone resorption. 587. What is the action of vitamin D analogs like calcitriol? Answer. Promote calcium absorption in the gut. 588. How does aliskiren work as a renin inhibitor? Answer. Inhibits renin to reduce angiotensin I production. 589. What is the mechanism of action of antivirals like acyclovir? Answer. Inhibit viral DNA polymerase. 590. How do neuraminidase inhibitors like oseltamivir work? Answer. Inhibit viral neuraminidase to prevent viral release. 591. What is the action of reverse transcriptase inhibitors like zidovudine? Answer. Inhibit reverse transcriptase in HIV. 592. How do protease inhibitors like lopinavir work in HIV? Answer. Inhibit HIV protease to prevent viral maturation. 593. What is the mechanism of action of integrase inhibitors like raltegravir? Answer. Inhibit HIV integrase to prevent viral DNA integration. 594. How do antifungal drugs like amphotericin B work? Answer. Bind ergosterol to disrupt fungal membranes. 595. What is the action of azole antifungals like fluconazole? Answer. Inhibit ergosterol synthesis. 596. How does terbinafine work as an antifungal? Answer. Inhibits squalene epoxidase in fungi. 597. What is the mechanism of action of anti-tuberculosis drugs like isoniazid? Answer. Inhibit mycolic acid synthesis. 598. How does rifampin work in tuberculosis? Answer. Inhibits bacterial RNA polymerase. 599. What is the action of pyrazinamide in tuberculosis therapy? Answer. Disrupts bacterial membrane potential. 600. How does ethambutol work in tuberculosis? Answer. Inhibits arabinosyl-transferase. 601. What is the action of fluoroquinolones like ciprofloxacin? Answer. Inhibit bacterial DNA gyrase and topoisomerase IV. 602. How do macrolides like azithromycin work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial protein synthesis by binding to the 50S ribosomal subunit. 603. What is the mechanism of action of aminoglycosides like gentamicin? Answer. Inhibit bacterial protein synthesis by binding to the 30S ribosomal subunit. 604. How do tetracyclines like doxycycline work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial protein synthesis by blocking tRNA binding to the 30S ribosomal subunit. 605. What is the action of chloramphenicol? Answer. Inhibits bacterial protein synthesis by binding to the 50S ribosomal subunit. 606. How do sulfonamides like sulfamethoxazole work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial folic acid synthesis. 607. What is the mechanism of action of trimethoprim? Answer. Inhibits dihydrofolate reductase to block folic acid synthesis. 608. How do carbapenems like meropenem work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial cell wall synthesis. 609. What is the action of vancomycin? Answer. Inhibits bacterial cell wall synthesis by binding to diala-diala. 610. How do cephalosporins like ceftriaxone work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial cell wall synthesis. 611. What is the mechanism of action of penicillins like amoxicillin? Answer. Inhibit bacterial cell wall synthesis by binding to penicillin binding proteins. 612. How does clindamycin work as an antibiotic? Answer. Inhibits bacterial protein synthesis by binding to the 50S ribosomal subunit. 613. What is the action of polymyxins like colistin? Answer. Disrupt bacterial cell membranes. 614. How does daptomycin work in bacterial infections? Answer. Causes bacterial membrane depolarization. 615. What is the mechanism of action of rifaximin? Answer. Inhibits bacterial RNA polymerase. 616. How do oxazolidinones like linezolid work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial protein synthesis by binding to the 50S ribosomal subunit. 617. What is the action of antiprotozoal drugs like metronidazole? Answer. Forms toxic metabolites that damage DNA. 618. How does chloroquine work in malaria? Answer. Inhibits heme detoxification in Plasmodium. 619. What is the mechanism of action of artemisinin derivatives? Answer. Generate free radicals to damage Plasmodium proteins and membranes. 620. How does mebendazole work as an antihelminthic? Answer. Inhibits microtubule synthesis in parasites. 621. What is the action of praziquantel in schistosomiasis? Answer. Increases calcium permeability in parasite membranes. 622. How do beta-lactamase inhibitors like clavulanic acid work? Answer. Inhibit bacterial beta-lactamase enzymes. 623. What is the mechanism of action of interferons? Answer. Modulate immune response and inhibit viral replication. 624. How do monoclonal antibodies like infliximab work? Answer. Bind to TNF-alpha to reduce inflammation. 625. What is the action of interleukin-2 in immunotherapy? Answer. Stimulates T-cell proliferation. 626. How does cyclosporin work as an immunosuppressant? Answer. Inhibits calcineurin to block T-cell activation. 627. What is the mechanism of action of tacrolimus? Answer. Inhibits calcineurin to suppress T-cell activation. 628. How do mTOR inhibitors like sirolimus work? Answer. Inhibit mTOR to block T-cell proliferation. 629. What is the action of mycophenolate mofetil? Answer. Inhibits inosine monophosphate dehydrogenase to reduce lymphocyte proliferation. 630. How does rituximab work in autoimmune diseases? Answer. Targets CD20 on B cells. 631. What is the mechanism of action of checkpoint inhibitors like nivolumab? Answer. Block PD1 PDL1 interactions to enhance T cell activity. 632. How do histamine H1 receptor antagonists like loratadine work? Answer. Block H1 receptors to reduce allergy symptoms. 633. What is the action of H2 receptor antagonists like ranitidine? Answer. Inhibit gastric acid secretion. 634. How do proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole work? Answer. Irreversibly inhibit the H plus K plus ATPase in parietal cells. 635. What is the mechanism of action of antacids like magnesium hydroxide? Answer. Neutralize stomach acid. 636. How does sucralfate work in peptic ulcer disease? Answer. Forms a protective barrier on ulcers. 637. What is the action of laxatives like bisacodyl? Answer. Stimulate intestinal motility. 638. How do bulk-forming laxatives like psyllium work? Answer. Increase stool bulk and water content. 639. What is the mechanism of action of antiemetics like ondansetron? Answer. Block serotonin 5-HT3 receptors. 640. How does metoclopramide work as an antiemetic? Answer. Blocks dopamine D2 receptors. 641. What is the action of cannabinoids like dronabinol in nausea? Answer. Activate CB1 receptors in the brain. 642. How do osmotic laxatives like lactulose work? Answer. Draw water into the intestine to soften stool. 643. What is the mechanism of action of antidiarrheal drugs like loperamide? Answer. Activate opioid receptors in the gut. 644. How does bismuth subsalicylate work? Answer. Coats the stomach and has antimicrobial effects. 645. What is the action of antispasmodics like dicyclamine? Answer. Inhibit smooth muscle contraction. 646. How do benzodiazepines like diazepam work? Answer. Enhance GABA activity at GABA A receptors. 647. What is the mechanism of action of SSRIs like fluoxetine? Answer. Inhibit serotonin reuptake. 648. How do tricyclic antidepressants like amitriptyline work? Answer. Inhibit reuptake of norepinephrine and serotonin. 649. What is the action of MAO inhibitors like phenelzine? Answer. Inhibit monoamine oxidase to increase neurotransmitter levels. 650. How does lithium work in bipolar disorder? Answer. Modulates neurotransmitter release and signaling pathways. 651. How do atypical antipsychotics like olanzapine work? Answer. Block dopamine D2 and serotonin 5-HT2A receptors. 652. What is the mechanism of action of haloperidol? Answer. Blocks dopamine D2 receptors. 653. How does clozapine work in schizophrenia? Answer. Blocks dopamine D2 and serotonin 5-HT2A receptors. 654. What is the action of selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors SNRIs like venlafaxine? Answer. Inhibit reuptake of serotonin and norepinephrine. 655. How do beta blockers like propranolol work in hypertension? Answer. Block beta adrenergic receptors to reduce heart rate and cardiac output. 656. What is the mechanism of action of ACE inhibitors like enalapril? Answer. Inhibit angiotensin converting enzyme to reduce angiotensin II production. 657. How do angiotensin receptor blockers ARBs like losartan work? Answer. Block angiotensin II receptors. 658. What is the action of calcium channel blockers like amlodipine? Answer. Inhibit calcium influx into vascular smooth muscle and cardiac cells. 659. How does digoxin work in heart failure? Answer. Inhibits Na plus K plus ATPase to increase intracellular calcium. 660. What is the mechanism of action of nitrates like nitroglycerin? Answer. Release nitric oxide to cause vasodilation. 661. How do diuretics like furosemide work? Answer. Inhibit sodium and chloride reabsorption in the loop of Henle. 662. What is the action of thiazide diuretics like hydrochlorothiazide? Answer. Inhibit sodium reabsorption in the distal convoluted tubule. 663. How does spironolactone work as a diuretic? Answer. Blocks aldosterone receptors. 664. What is the mechanism of action of statins like atorvastatin? Answer. Inhibit HMG-CoA reductase to lower cholesterol synthesis. 665. How do fibrates like gemfibrozil work? Answer. Activate PPAR alpha to increase lipid metabolism. 666. What is the action of bile acid sequestrants like cholestyramine? Answer. Bind bile acids in the intestine to lower cholesterol. 667. How does ezetimibe work in hyperlipidemia? Answer. Inhibits cholesterol absorption in the intestine. 668. What is the mechanism of action of anticoagulants like warfarin? Answer. Inhibit vitamin K dependent clotting factor synthesis. 669. How do direct thrombin inhibitors like dabigatran work? Answer. Inhibit thrombin activity directly. 670. What is the action of factor XA inhibitors like rivaroxaban? Answer. Inhibit factor XA to prevent clot formation. 671. How does heparin work as an anticoagulant? Answer. Activates antithrombin to inhibit clotting factors. 672. What is the mechanism of action of aspirin? Answer. Inhibits cyclooxygenase COX to prevent platelet aggregation. 673. How do ADP receptor inhibitors like clopidogrel work? Answer. Block ADP receptors on platelets to prevent aggregation. 674. What is the action of tissue plasminogen activators like alteplase? Answer. Convert plasminogen to plasmin to dissolve clots. 675. How does insulin work in diabetes? Answer. Facilitates glucose uptake into cells. 676. What is the mechanism of action of metformin? Answer. Inhibits hepatic glucose production and increases insulin sensitivity. 677. How do sulfonylureas like glipizide work? Answer. Stimulate insulin secretion from pancreatic beta cells. 678. What is the action of DPP-4 inhibitors like sitagliptin? Answer. Increase incretin levels to enhance insulin secretion. 679. How do GLP-1 receptor agonists like exenatide work? Answer. Mimic incretin to stimulate insulin secretion and suppress glucagon. 680. What is the mechanism of action of SGLT2 inhibitors like empagliflozin? Answer. Inhibit glucose reabsorption in the kidney. 681. How does pioglitazone work in diabetes? Answer. Activates PPAR gamma to improve insulin sensitivity. 682. What is the action of alpha-glucosidase inhibitors like acarbose? Answer. Delay carbohydrate absorption in the intestine. 683. How do bisphosphonates like alendronate work? Answer. Inhibit osteoclast activity to reduce bone resorption. 684. What is the mechanism of action of denosumab? Answer. Inhibits RANKL to prevent osteoclast formation. 685. How does calcitonin work in osteoporosis? Answer. Inhibits osteoclast activity. 686. What is the action of parathyroid hormone analogs like teriparatide? Answer. Stimulate bone formation. 687. How do selective estrogen receptor modulators, SERMs like raloxifene work? Answer. Act as estrogen agonists in bone to reduce resorption. 688. What is the mechanism of action of levothyroxine? Answer. Replaces thyroid hormone in hypothyroidism. 689. How does propylthiouracil work in hyperthyroidism? Answer. Inhibits thyroid hormone synthesis. 690. What is the action of radioiodine in thyroid disorders? Answer. Destroys thyroid tissue. 691. How do glucocorticoids like prednisone work? Answer. Bind to glucocorticoid receptors to modulate gene expression. 692. What is the mechanism of action of mineralocorticoids like fludrocortisone? Answer. Mimic aldosterone to promote sodium retention. 693. How does methotrexate work in rheumatoid arthritis? Answer. Inhibits dihydrofolate reductase to reduce inflammation. 694. What is the action of leflunomide in autoimmune diseases? Answer. Inhibits pyrimidine synthesis. 695. How do biologics like adalimumab work in rheumatoid arthritis? Answer. Bind to TNF-alpha to reduce inflammation. 696. What is the mechanism of action of colchicine in gout? Answer. Inhibits microtubule polymerization to reduce inflammation. 697. How does allopurinol work in gout? Answer. Inhibits xanthine oxidase to lower uric acid levels. 698. What is the action of probenecid in gout? Answer. Increases uric acid excretion in urine. 699. How does febuxostat work in gout? Answer. Inhibits xanthine oxidase to lower uric acid production. 700. What is the mechanism of action of NSAIDs like ibuprofen? Answer. Inhibits cyclooxygenase COX enzymes to reduce inflammation. To get more, you can contact us. Regards. Majid Body Advocate. PhD Scholar, Pharmaceutics LLB. Vice President. Pakistan Pharmacist Association PPA Punjab, Pakistan. Contact. +923214042036. Thank you.